Autumn, 480 BCE. The Aegean Sea glows crimson beneath the setting sun. Smoke rises from the ruins of Athens, curling into a sky heavy with ash and grief. The city that once sang to the gods now burns in silence. From the Acropolis, statues of Athena lie shattered, their marble faces blackened by flame. Across the straits, thousands of exiles watch from the island of Salamis, the reflection of their lost home flickering on the waves. Among them stands Themistocles, the Athenian admiral, his cloak snapping in the salt wind. His eyes fixed not on the fire behind him, but on the horizon ahead, where a new inferno gathers. "They will come," he murmurs, voice low against the roar of the sea. "And when they do, they will find us waiting." Across the water, King Xerxes, the Khan of Persia, commands a fleet larger than any the world has ever seen, over 1,000 warships, each oar stroke beating like the heart of an empire. He has crossed the Hellespont on bridges of boats, carved roads through mountains, and bent nations to his will. To him, Greece is a defiant ember to be snuffed out. But to the Greeks, the Persian king is not merely a conqueror. He is a storm vast, relentless, divine in his wrath. And Themistocles, once mocked by rivals in Athens' assembly, now bears the impossible task of stopping him with what remains of Greece's navy. The exiled citizens work through the night along the shore of Salamis, repairing battered ships, triremes, the pride of Athenian craftsmanship. Each vessel is a weapon of speed and precision. 3 tiers of oars, 170 men, and a bronze ram shaped like the head of a bull. The air rings with the sound of hammers and chants, prayers whispered to Poseidon, god of the sea. In the darkness, flickering torchlight reveals faces of fear and resolve. Fathers lash ropes, sons polish oars, mothers weave charms into the sailors' tunics. Even the veterans, hardened by war, cannot escape the weight of the moment. Themistocles moves among them, speaking softly not as a general, but as one of them. "Athens has fallen," he says, "but Greece is not. Our walls now stand upon the sea." Behind him, Eurybiades, the Spartan admiral commanding the allied fleet, approaches. His voice is blunt, skeptical. "You would face the great king in open battle with half his ships?" Themistocles turns toward the water, where triremes rock gently against their moorings. "Not open battle," he answers. "A narrow one." He knows the Persian strength lies in their numbers, vast galleys from Egypt, Phoenicia, and Cilicia, built for open water. But in the confined straits between Salamis and the mainland, numbers will turn against them. 1,000 oars will tangle, 1,000 holes will choke the sea. There, discipline and maneuver, not size, will decide victory. Far to the east, under the cold light of dawn, Persian lookouts spot the Greek fleet preparing. From Xerxes' command ship, drums thunder across the sea. His captains bow before him, eager to finish what began at Thermopylae. They believe the Greeks cornered, broken, without escape. But Themistocles has already set his plan in motion. That night, he sends a false messenger, a Greek slave loyal to him, across the channel to the Persians. The man bows low before the satraps and delivers a message of deception. The Greek alliance is in disarray. Some plan to flee before dawn. Strike them now, and victory is yours. The trap is set. Back on Salamis, the wind grows colder. The sailors sleep on the decks of their triremes, wrapped in thin cloaks, dreaming of their families and the burning city across the water. Themistocles stands alone beneath the stars, tracing the constellations like ancient maps of fate. He whispers a prayer to Athena, not for strength, but for clarity, for courage to face the tide. The waves lap softly against the hulls, rhythmic as a heartbeat. Beyond the darkness, the Persian fleet stirs, unaware that the narrow straits they sail toward will become their grave. Dawn creeps across the horizon, pale, cold, and breathless. Mist drapes the straits of Salamis, veiling the jagged rocks and the silent ships anchored along the shore. Beneath the stillness, 1,000 hearts beat in time with the tide. The sound of creaking wood and whispered prayers fill the air, a tension so thick it feels carved into the sea itself. Themistocles stands on the deck of his flagship, the Artemisium's Oath, gazing toward the mainland, where the first glints of sunlight strike bronze. Out there, beyond the haze, the Persian fleet is awakening. He knows what is coming. He invited it. A runner hurries to him. Admiral, scouts report movement from the east. The enemy is rowing out hundreds of ships. Themistocles nods slowly, almost in relief. Good, he says. They took the bait. Far across the strait, the Persian drums begin deep, booming, relentless. The sound rolls like thunder across the water as thousands of oars dip in unison. From above, the sight is monstrous, a living tide of black hulls and scarlet sails stretching from shore to horizon. Phoenician, Egyptian, and Cilician warships glint in the rising sun, banners of the great king fluttering like blood-soaked wings. On the cliffs above, Xerxes Bai watches from a golden throne built for triumph. His scribes and generals stand beside him, ready to record his victory, the conquest of Greece. He believes the Greek fleet will scatter like gulls before the storm. But within the narrow straits, Themistocles has turned the sea into a labyrinth. He positions the Athenian triremes in tight formation, line upon line, prows facing outward. To the west, the Corinthians and Spartans block the escape route, completing the trap. Behind them, smaller ships wait to strike from the shadows once the Persians are entangled. A light wind rises, rippling the water and the nerves of the men. Themistocles walks among his oarsmen. Most are farmers, potters, and fishermen turned warriors. He places a hand on one man's shoulder, his voice calm but unyielding. "Remember your wives," he says quietly. "Remember your children. The walls of Athens may have fallen, but they stand behind you now." The men nod, gripping their oars tighter. The smell of pine tar, salt, and sweat fills the decks. Beneath them, the sea whispers against the bronze rams like the breath of some ancient beast waiting to strike. Then silence. For a moment, the world seems to hold its breath. The mist thickens, and through it, shadows emerge, the first Persian ships entering the strait. Their oars slice through the water, sending ripples gliding toward the Athenian line. The sound grows rhythmic, immense, like the march of an army beneath the waves. A young sailor turns to Themistocles. "They're coming straight for us, sir." No hesitation. "Exactly as we hoped," he replies. One by one, Persian galleys push into the confined waters, their rows upon rows of oars clashing against the cliffs and each other. Orders shouted in a dozen tongues echo chaotically across the strait. The narrow channel, once calm, begins to churn. Themistocles raises his arm. "Signal the line, hold steady. Let them choke themselves." The Greek fleet remains motionless, shadows on the fog, each ship waiting for the perfect moment. From the cliffs, Xerxes frowns. The enemy seems frozen, unwilling to fight. He mistakes patience for fear. "Press them," he commands. "Crush them before they flee." The Persian fleet surges forward, hundreds of ships crowding into waters meant for dozens. Themistocles watches, eyes narrowing. He can almost feel the sea tightening around them like a closing fist. Then, as the first rays of sunlight pierce the mist, a horn sounds from the Athenian flagship, a single, mournful note that splits the silence like lightning. The waiting Greek ships come alive. Oars plunge into the water. Sails unfurl. The line surges forward as one bronze prow's glinting in the dawn. Themistocles' voice cuts through the wind. "Now, strike, and let the gods decide who rules the sea." The first collision echoes across the strait, wood against wood, bronze against flesh, the birth cry of a battle that will decide the fate of civilization. the first ram struck like thunder. The Athenian trireme, Ajax's fury, drove its bronze prow deep into the hull of a Phoenician warship, splintering planks and snapping oars in half. Men screamed as the sea rushed in, dragging them beneath the foam. Themistocles watched from his command deck as the mist exploded into chaos, a battle not of fleets, but of warriors. The narrow straits of Salamis became a cauldron of shattered wood and blood. Oars tangled, hulls collided, and ships scraped against cliffs slick with salt and flame. The sound was deafening, the rhythmic crash of oars, the cries of men, the clash of spears as boarding parties leapt from deck to deck. Smoke from burning pitch curled low over the water, staining the dawn a sickly bronze. Themistocles' voice rang across the deck. Steer hard to port, ram her amidships. His helmsman obeyed. The trireme turned sharply, oars biting the water. Ahead, a Persian galley loomed larger, heavier, her decks bristling with archers. Themistocles' vessel struck first, the ram biting through her side with a crack like breaking bone. The Persians staggered. Some leapt into the sea, others drew scimitars, desperate to board. Greek marines' hoplites and bronze cuirasses met them head-on. Shields clanged, spears thrust, the decks slick with seawater and blood. For a heartbeat, the battle felt like Thermopylae reborn, except now the walls were waves, and the ground was moving beneath their feet. All around, the straits boiled with combat. The disciplined Athenian crews rowed with perfect rhythm. Stroke, strike, withdraw. Persian coordination, crushed by numbers and confusion, began to falter. Ships collided with one another in the crush. Their commanders' shouted orders were drowned by the roar of panic. On a nearby deck, a Spartan captain roared, "Ram them again! Drive them into the rocks!" His trireme surged forward, impaling a Persian ship against the cliffside. Splinters flew like arrows. From above, Xerxes' eye watched from his throne on Mount Aigaleos, his golden parasol fluttering in the hot wind. At first, he smiled certain of victory, but as the hours passed, his smile faded. The sea beneath him had turned into a graveyard of his own fleet. Themistocles stood firm amid the chaos, his cloak soaked and torn, his command signals a raised shield. A flash of torchlight cut through the smoke, guiding the Greek line like a conductor orchestrating war. One of his lieutenants shouted over the roar, "Admiral, their wings are folding in. The Phoenicians can't maneuver." "Good," Themistocles said. "Now box them in. Turn their pride against them." The Greeks shifted formation, closing the strait behind the Persians. The trapped galleys, hemmed between cliffs and enemies, began to grind together. Arrows rained down from the Persian decks, but the Greeks answered with fire clay pots filled with burning resin hurled by catapult. Flames licked the rigging, turning sails into sheets of light. A Cilician admiral tried to rally his men. "For the great king! Break through!" But his words were lost as a wave of Athenian ships crashed into his line, spearing one after another. The waters turned black with smoke and crimson with blood. In the midst of the slaughter, Themistocles' trireme rammed again. He steadied himself against the rail as Persian soldiers leapt aboard. A spear flashed, caught by a Greek shield. Themistocles' sword came down in a clean arc, steel meeting flesh. The admiral fought not as a statesman now, but as a soldier of Athens, each blow a prayer for his city. Above the din, a horn sounded 3 times the agreed signal from the Corinthian flank. They had breached the Persian rear. The trap was complete. From the cliff, Xerxes rose to his feet, eyes wide. Below, his proudest captain's ships were burning, their crews drowning in the narrow channel his advisors had called safe. Themistocles had turned the geography of Greece itself into a weapon, a noose of water and rock tightening around an empire. The wind shifted, the fires roared higher, the Persian drums fell silent. Only the oar beats of the Greeks remained steady. disciplined, victorious. Themistocles looked to the shore, where the smoke rose over Salamis like incense to the gods. He lowered his sword slowly. "Hold formation," he ordered quietly. "Let no one pursue. The sea has taken enough." And for a moment, as the battle waned, the strait lay still, the bodies of ships and men drifting side by side, the echoes of war fading into the hiss of waves against burned wood. Themistocles closed his eyes, the salt of the sea mixing with the sweat on his brow. The battle was not yet over, but Greece had endured the storm. Midday, 480 BCE. The sun stands high over Salamis, burning through the haze of smoke and salt. The sea shimmers like molten bronze, but beneath the glinting waves lies ruined the wreckage of an empire's pride. Persian ships drift aimlessly, their sails aflame, their decks choked with fallen men. The narrow straits that once promised swift victory have become a graveyard of splintered timber and shattered ambition. On the cliffs of Mount Aigaleos, King Xerxes. Ethnic watches in disbelief. His royal scribes who came to record his triumph hesitate to write. The golden throne he brought to witness glory now feels like a cage of humiliation. Below him, his fleet 1,000 ships strong has been reduced to chaos. Themistocles' strategy has worked to perfection. By luring the Persians into the constricted waters, he has stripped them of their greatest advantage: numbers. The Greek triremes, lighter and faster, move like wolves among cattle, darting through gaps, striking, withdrawing, and striking again. From his flagship, Themistocles surveys the scene, a mind forged for strategy in the crucible of despair. "Press them toward the shore," he commands. "Let the cliffs do our work." The horns sound once more. Greek oars flash like silver beneath the sunlight. One by one, the Allied ships tighten their circle. Persian vessels, unable to turn or retreat, collide in confusion. The crash of hulls echoes like thunder through the channel. Men scream, water hisses, bronze rams shatter planks. Themistocles turns to his helmsman. "We cannot give them space. If they breathe, they'll reform." "Aye, Admiral." His own trireme surges forward, oars cutting deep, the deck vibrating underfoot. Ahead, a massive Persian flagship looms adorned with gold, banners of the great king fluttering proudly even as arrows fall around it. For a heartbeat, the two ships seem to lock eyes across the sea. Then, Themistocles raises his arm. "Ram her." The prow strikes with a sound like a collapsing temple. Wood buckles. Men tumble. Persian archers spill from the upper deck as Greek marines swarm aboard. Steel clashes with bronze. A hoplite drives his spear through a shield. A sailor hurls a torch into spilled pitch, and fire blossoms upward like a signal to the gods. The Persian admiral aboard the burning ship cries out, "Retreat! To open sea!" But there is no escape. Behind them, more Persian ships crash against their own. The straits have turned into a suffocating trap, the very waters that carried them to conquest now closing around them like jaws. On the cliffs, Xerxes grips his throne, knuckles white as his officers murmur in fear. A royal attendant hesitates before speaking. "My king, should we order the retreat?" "No," Xerxes snaps. "They will fight. They must." But below, the sea does not obey kings. Themistocles' ally, Aristides, commanding the Athenian reserve, joins the fray from the western flank, sealing the Persian fate. He drives his ships into the densest cluster of enemy vessels, cleaving through them like an axe through wood. The roar of Greek victory builds a wave of human sound, rising over the crashing sea. Soon, the Persians begin to break. Oars snap, sailors abandon their stations. Commanders shout orders lost to the wind. Many leap into the water, clutching at debris, dragged under by their own armor. Themistocles lowers his head as he watches. He does not cheer. He knows this is no triumph of glory. It is survival born from necessity. "Spare the wounded," he calls to his men. "Show them we are not beasts." The Greek fleet regroups amid the drifting wreckage. They move carefully now, searching for allies among the ruin. The sea is quiet, only the hiss of fire and the soft thud of debris striking the hulls remain. From the heights, Xerxes can no longer watch. He turns away, his golden robe trailing behind him, his empire's aura of invincibility torn apart by the cunning of one man and the courage of a few thousand sailors. As the sun dips westward, Themistocles stands at the prow of his ship, staring into the smoldering horizon. Smoke coils upward like a funeral pyre, carrying with it the memory of Athens burned but unbroken. He does not smile, he only whispers, "The gods favor the bold, but only those who earn their mercy." The wind shifts, sweeping the last of the battle smoke out to sea. The Athenian sailors kneel on the decks, murmuring prayers to Athena and Poseidon, their faces streaked with salt and tears. Themistocles looks to the west, toward Plataea, where he knows the Persians will march next. Salamis is not the end. It is the turning of the tide. The victory that began in fire and deception has become the dawn of a new Greece forged not by walls or kings, but by the sea and the courage of men who refuse to bow. Evening, 480 BCE, the fires have faded, and the sea lies still once more. The wreckage of war drifts quietly in the narrow waters between Salamis and the Greek mainland. Broken oars, shattered shields, fragments of bronze, and the pale bodies of the fallen bob gently in the current. The stench of smoke and salt fills the air. The sun sinks low, casting a golden light across the battlefield, as if the gods themselves have drawn a curtain over the day. On the rocky shore, Themistocles walks among the survivors. He moves slowly, wordless, his boots crunching over scorched wood and spilled sand. Around him, sailors tend to the wounded, binding gashes with torn linen and whispering prayers. The cries of men mix with the rhythmic sigh of the tide, the eternal sound of life returning after violence. For a moment, he looks back across the strait where it all began. The Persian fleet, what remains of it, flees toward Phaleron, their banners gone, their arrogance drowned beneath the waves. And Xerxes I, the self-proclaimed king of kings, has withdrawn from the shore where he once sat in splendor. His bridge across the Hellespont, built in triumph, now waits to carry him home in defeat. Themistocles' second in command, Aristides, approaches, his armor dented, his face streaked with ash. "We've driven them out," he says. "The sea belongs to us now." Themistocles nods but does not answer. He gazes at the horizon, his eyes distant, as if already seeing the years to come. "No," he says softly. "It belongs to whoever defends it next. Today, it was us." He kneels beside a fallen Athenian, resting a hand on the man's shoulder. Around the body, small offerings, a sprig of olive, a coin for Charon, a piece of pottery painted with Athena's owl lie in the sand. Themistocles whispers something no one else can hear. Behind him, the sailors begin to sing a low, weary chant that drifts over the water. It is not a song of triumph, but remembrance. They sing for Athens, for the homes they left behind, for the courage that turned despair into victory. The camera of history widens. Across Greece, word spreads like fire carried by the wind. Salamis is ours. In Sparta, warriors salute the cunning of the Athenians they once scorned. In Corinth, bells ring. In Delphi, priests of Apollo proclaim the battle, a divine sign that freedom, once kindled, cannot be extinguished. And across the Aegean, Persian soldiers whisper of Themistocles, the man who trapped an empire in a strip of sea no wider than a mile. Years later, philosophers and poets will write that this was the day Western civilization drew its first breath, when democracy and tyranny met upon the waves, and freedom, though fragile, endured. The Battle of Salamis will be remembered not as a triumph of strength, but of strategy of mind over might. Themistocles stands once more at the edge of the shore, his cloak fluttering in the dying light. The wind carries the scent of the sea and the faint echo of oars in the distance. He knows that victory has bought Greece only time the Persians will return. The wars will continue. But for now, this moment belongs to the gods and to those who dared to stand against the impossible. He speaks quietly, perhaps to the sea, perhaps to history itself. Let them remember this day not for me, not for Athens, but for every free man who believes that the narrowest strait can still hold back an empire. As night falls, the waves lap softly against the shore, washing away the blood, the ash, the footprints. The moon rises, silver and calm, over a sea that has tasted both destruction and deliverance. Themistocles turns and walks into the darkness, his silhouette fading between firelight and shadow, a man who changed the fate of the world, one narrow passage at a time,